Hey, this is this, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about something kind of bizarre. This may have something to do with a couple of videos. One from Brimstone's EA loves my Xbox, and of course, Review Text USA's little video about how PCs have been so much more better. Now, I'm not mad at Brimstone because his video was pretty much on the dot, and Review Text USA's video was pretty much landing head first into a fucking cement wall because the man just doesn't fucking understand anything. Well, maybe a few things he does. I mean, at least he understands how to put PCs together. And of course, he'll ignore my videos as he always does because that's Review Tech. I don't exist to him apparently. Since my viewer count ain't quote unquote high enough. Now, most people are a little bit curious, or saying that with the upgradability of PCs, that they're far more better than consoles, and even Blackbone has been saying this. And yes, for the most part, that is right. And then yes, with EA's egregiously stupid deal to try to save a dying console known as the Xbox One, they've now allowed a whole infinite of their libraries to go on the Xbox One. The two are kind of related. See, EA is, and Brimstone had it right when he says that EA is trying to bring up production costs of a lot of shit and try to make everything so expensive that companies will just go out of business and all this other crap. But EA was in love with that whole DRM shit because they don't want to pay any of this production costs or any of that crap because, in simpler terms, they're cheapskates. Yes, it's a nice deal, but in the long run, it's going to shit on you because this is fucking EA. I mean, seriously. EA has shitted on everybody and has turned good games into utter crap, like the new Sin City game. It's people still hate the fucking game. Even despite all the changes in the offline mode, they're still calling it crap. And of course, you got the Mass Effect endings. And of course, the whole EA's DRM shit on there. And of course, Ubisoft's got their DRM. But of course, Ubisoft really doesn't like PCs that well, or PC gaming that much, secretly. Yeah, their PCs have better frame rates, but installing that Uplay on a PC is about the same as trying to get yourself unstrangled after you tied a rope around your neck and dangled it off the roof and then kicked the stool from underneath, and now you're trying to, save your own life, and you're in a fucking well, and you made the rope go halfway down. So you gotta climb all the way up there and hope to God you don't slip and snap your neck like a twig. But yet Uplay for the consoles only has a few hiccups? Huh. Go figure. I mean, they even got Uplay app for the fucking Wii U. That actually works better than anything I've ever seen. But there's a reason why. And of course, Review Tech USA keeps saying, of course, well, it's all about the power of the consoles, and these consoles aren't powerful enough, so we're going to be seeing new consoles about 2 or 3 years from now. And then we're going to have to buy those consoles, and they're going to be true next-gen. That whole true next-gen experience. Without thinking that there's a reason why Microsoft and Sony picked the consoles and the power that they had. Even though Microsoft did a more dumber decision. And Nintendo, well, they knew their library would save them. Which it's doing at this point. Let me put it to a way you people can kind of understand. You see, there's this law that was put out there on computers, especially processors, the GPU and CPU, on how thin you can cut certain materials, say, silicon. And we've been cutting this silicon thinner and thinner. The law is called Moore's Law. And we've been making it so thin that we're about ready to hit the atomic level of thinness. What that means is This is what's called the end of Moore's Law, or for the silicon age anyways, which means that we can't use silicon for our processors anymore. We have to get at least a new type of material that will hold out for a little while, but in the end, it will end. And of course, they're now doing something called 3D processing, where there is, instead of making it more and more thinner, even though they're still making it thinner, they're making these silicon processors, I mean, extremely thin. They're past the paper thinness now. That now they're just making them somewhat bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and more powerful, because they're reaching a problem with the processor speeds, because they're getting to a point that they can't cut the silica to a thinness beyond that of the atomic level. It's impossible. You're just now going to be cutting through the material, but you're not going to cut the material at all. See, Moore's law basically said the more smaller we make the processor, the more faster we can make the processor. But now that law is starting to wear out, and then it is now being slightly diverted. Now it's being slightly made bigger and bigger at the thinness that it's already at, but still trying to make it at least a little bit more thinner until we can bring in newer microchips, or newer processors, that can do all this shit and get faster and faster without worrying about, certain other problems. If you don't believe me, this is why your heat sinks are getting bigger and fatter in your computers, even though the processors are smaller, because this is one of the problems with using silicon, is that the thinner you cut it and the more electricity you pass through it, or the more processes you pass through it on particles, it tends to heat up a lot. Now, I'm not a physicist or anything. It's just a lot of things I've been learning. But, yeah, it's not looking good. Processors are slightly growing, not in, fatness, but more, diagonal-wise, or going, across. And this is a kind of a severe problem. And Sony knows this, and Microsoft knows this. Hell, even Nintendo knows this. That's why they can't put much power in these consoles, because right now they don't. We're not into the next gen of processors that we need to where we can just keep going and going and going again. We're just not at that stage yet. I mean, we can still make somewhat faster and faster, but if you ever look at how our achievements on processors and how fast we did it, if you look at it from like the 1980s, we had a large amount of speeds between each processors coming out. But nowadays, it's just slowing down. And it's been doing this gradually throughout the years as years go by. Something Black Bond doesn't understand. I mean, it's basically like this. You built a car and it goes like 20 miles an hour, and that's its top speed. Then you built another car a year later, and it can go 70 miles an hour. But now you can make your car go 100 miles an hour, but the next year you can only make the car go 105, and then the next year 104, and then the next year 103, 2, 1. I mean, Oh wait, I did that backwards. I meant you can only make a car go 1 to each 100. You can only make it go 101, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 mile per higher speed until you can't make that car go any faster. It's just an example. So the speed of how much more you can add on to graphics and to the power of your processors is slowing down. And they're only doing it maybe 5 or 6% now per year, which is not good. This is why also cell phones are beginning to slow down, because they're now using alternate materials as well as trying to slowly stretch out the processors in them to make sure they get faster speeds. The only thing was, they're just hoping that you wouldn't see this, and that dumbass morons like Review Tech wouldn't notice this at all. I mean, all you have to do is, like I said, look at a long list of GPU processor speeds on a year by year basis, and notice how their processing boosts are going slower and slower and slower year by year. So we're not going to see another console for at least another 5 or 6 years. And people like Review Tech USA is just going to have to deal with it. And that is because it is getting harder to make faster GPUs and faster and better CPUs and GPUs. It's just getting harder to make for these companies to make them because the material is literally disappearing on them. Yeah, there's plenty of silicon, and you can get silicon easily. Hell, you can even grow silicon. But, when the material's gone, when you can't, cut the material down any further to the point that it's just, you can't do it, you're fucked. That's the end of Moore's Law. That's why these consoles didn't put very much power into them like they did with the last generation console. Because in the last generation consoles, neither of these companies were thinking. They were thinking power, put more power into this, have it the strongest consoles ever. Now, if they do the whole cell phone thing, they're fucked. Because when the PC era ends, most likely it will when the Moore's Law ends, these consoles are going to be the only thing that's going to keep going until we can get the new line of processors to reboot the PC era. And hopefully reboot the smartphone era too. But I already know, Review Tech USA considers my videos to be completely useless. It's hard to talk to a man who thinks that you're nothing to him. But if he, by any chance, he does watch this video, which I think will, according to my watch, says never going to happen. Yeah, Review Tech, go look up Moore's Law, and while you're at it, go look up the end of Moore's Law. Maybe you'll get some kind of understanding how stupid you sound when you make your videos half the time. See ya.